This is warning thought could turn the Gulf from a shield into target. Iran is not only warning Israel. It is not only warning Washington. It warning the Arab Monarchies that sit beside American bases, oil ports, missile defense systems, naval commands, and imes danaras na jiko kipointiniat, ante messages brutal. If you land is against Iran, Yolan menet stef. If your airspace helps an attack, your case menet stay quit. If your bases become launch pads, your policies may no longer be unto. Uchiabo. That is the sentence now shaking the Gulf, not because it is loud, not because it is dramatic, but because even a ruler ain't. Region understands exactly what it means. The next Middle East war may not begin it in official declaration, it may begin with thorough. Nwe, a radar signal at anchor aircraft, a silent intelligence link, a base that was supposed to protect tunneling, but suddenly become as part of the battlefield, and that is with eyes warning is dangerous. It forces the richest monarchies in the Arab world to scorn. Terrifying question: if United States and Israel got a war with Iran, can we really remain spectators, or have a role in Sizzler? Id place does inside the blaster dias. Before Gadipa, subscribe to this channel if I went sharp, intense, and fearless bria. Down softwares, technologies, energy shocks, and power struggles happening to all. Because it is not just another middle year. Steadlines: this is the kind of crisis that can move your oil prices, reroute ships, close airspace, shake markets, and force the world. Remember, the Gulf is not only rich, it is vulnerable. The headline says Iran is wed according to Arab monarchies as fear. Rofen war with United States and Israel grows, but the real story is bigger than on a warning. It is about the architecture of po. Wherein the Gulf. It is about American military footprint that has happened the region for decades. It is about Israel's expandings. Security rich. It is about Iran's belief that it is being surrounded. And it is about Gulf monarchies trying to enjoy the benefit of American protection without paying the ultimate price of an American war. For decades, the basic deal was simple: Gulf monarch I offered access, partnership, energy stability, and strategic cooperation. The United States offered weapons, training, intelligence, military protection, and a security umbrella in peacetime that looked powerful. It allowed Gulf capital stog raw into global centers of finance, aviation, energy, sports, tourism, and diplomacy. It made cities like Doha, Dubai, Riyadh, Nama, and Kuwait city Pacom modern and almost untenable. But Iran is not trying to flip the upside down, terrorist. Linked Gulf, the American umbrella, not only a shield, it is also a target marker. The American vest that protects you may also pose you. The radar that watches the sky may also make you part of the battlefield. The alliance that gives you status may also put you a capital inside that enemy swap plan. This is not just rhetoric, it is strategy. I knows that American power in the Middle East is not floating there by itself. It needs land, it needs runways, it needs ports, it needs fuel, it needs command centers, it needs communications, it needs air defense coordination, it needs regional partners. If Iran can make those partnerships it, then Iran can limit America's freedom of action without firing the first shot. That is the power of the warning. Terror may not be able to match the United States plane for plane, ship for ship, or dollar for dollar. But it can threaten the political foundation beneath America. And power, it can set at the host countries. If I allow a territory to be used, you are not invisible. I follow your facilities to support a strike, you are not immune. If I join taken, you may become a link that can be hit. The Gulf monarchies understand is perfectly. They know their wealth is enormous, but they also know their vulnerability is real. Their energy infrastructure is exposed, their ports are critical, their populations are concentrated, their financial systems depend on confidence, their ins depend on open skies, their investment model depends on stability, their rulers depend on the belief that their country is a safe places to live, trade, invest, and build. Imiseledo is native to destroy skyline to damage thought belief, adrondo is native. Ito flatten up to kenja insurance rates, a cyber attack does native to shut down the entire economy to make investors pause. 8. Mbareya space closure does native to last year to create a panic. In the Gulf, stability is not only a military condition, it is a brand. Iran's warning is designed to attack that brand before an missile is launched. The size with word policymeters. When Nyan voices speak about Arab rulers and policies, they are not only talking about buildings, they are talking about regional confidence. See, they are taking to royal families. They are saying, do not assume war will remain a military matter, do not assume celestially. Chase soldiers, do not assume your wealth buys distance from geography, your cities are close, your bases are visible, your alien. Sequoias are being watched. That kind of language is meant to be remembered. It is meant to create fear inside the rooms where are held. Decisions are made, not the television studios, not the public conferences, the private rooms, the rooms where the advisors are squared. Raba second views. The rooms where leaders ask whether Washington will understand if they say no. The rooms where a military officer says whether Iran is bluffing. The rooms where financial officials ask how markets will react if the first interceptor is fired over Gulf capital. And that is where Iran's warning becomes open before it becomes an attack. It for every Gulf leader to calculate. If we stand too close to Washington, that will become a target. If we stand too far from Washington, that will lose protection. If we speak to or harshly against Iran, do invite retaliation. If we speak too softly, that will look with America and Israel. If we Tabas best view said the risk cities. If we fuse the risk alliance, this is the trap of geography. The Gulf Monarchies are rich, but they are not far away. Iran is not across an ocean. Iran is across the water. The distance is a short. Missile flight times can be shot at hand diplomatic consultations, drones, fast boats, cyber tools, proxy networks, and ballistic missiles all compress time in Accra. ISIS leaders may have a minute to respond to decisions that took years to create. Qatar sits at the center of his dilemma because all UD airbase has long been one of the most important American air power hubs in the region. It is a symbol of U.S. Reach, command, coordination and operational depth. To Washington it is an asset. To Doha it is protection and leverage. To Tehran it can look like a launchpad. That is not me and Qatar once were. In fact, Qatar often acts as a mediator. But in a major U.S. Iran crisis even account with it once mediation can find itself trapped in infrastructure. Bahrain faces another version of the same problem. The U.S. Navy all presence linked to Bahrain central to maritime security across the Gulf of Oman, the Arabian Sea, and the Red Sea. The United States, that presence of security silence. To Gulf partners it signals protection. To Iran it is foreign naval power. Near its front door, if the conflict becomes maritime, Bahrain's will become extremely sensitive. Kuwait matters because of log sticks and military access. The United Arab Emirates matters because of parts, money, technology, and its strategic connections. Saudi Arabia matters because of scale, energy, religious symbolism, and geopolitical weight. Each state is different, each role it has different priorities. But Iran's warning to stop less the mal on equation. If I host the machinery of a strike air, I am still just a host. That question is dangerous because modern war is not always simple. I can try to native to fire at the missile. It will know the missile, a radar can help track targets, a runway can extend range, a tanker can refuel aircraft, a pod can support IPS, a command center can coordinate air defense, a satellite link can move intelligence, a government can deny direct involvement. While still being part of the operational chain, Iran is trying to make that ambiguity impossible. Tehran wants Gulf governments talk not that in its size, technical neutrality may not protect them. If their land helps an attack happen, Iran may treat them as part of the attack. From a Gulf perspective, this is a direct threat to sovereignty. They would have thought they host foreign forces back. Ostifir Iran's missile programs, regional networks, and history of Russia. They all set at American-based Sarid funds. They all set at Iran's on creating instability. They would set at threatening Arab monarchies only proves why U.S. protection is necessary, and that is exactly how escalation works. One side says your defense are threats, the other side says why our threats justify your defenses. One side says we're deterring you, the other side says you are preparing to attack us. The langu Age of defense becomes the architecture if confrontation. Nowadays real to the equation, and the crisis becomes even more volatile. Israel views Iran as its control strategies. Iran views Israel as a hostile power backed by American military reckoning. Easily connected to Arab security networks. The more Israel and some Gulf states coordinate on air defense, intelligence, or technology, the more Tehran sees a regional tightening around it. The more Iran threatens, the more Israel argues to have deterrent. It must be strengthened. The size with the fear of any war with United States and Israel is not just a boot on a strike, it is a boot a Lecon of possible actions. A strike on Iranian nuclear or missile facilities. Are responsible Iran against U.S. Forces. AU.S. Reta. Laation. A Hezbollah escalation. A Red Sea disruption. A cyber attack on Gulf infrastructure. A warning at Strait of Hormuz. A miscalculation by a ship, a drone, or an air defense battery. Suddenly, a conflict that began on a target list becomes a region. All crisis. The Strait of Hormuz is the heart of the crisis. This narrow waterway is one of the most important energy chokepoints sent. Heplinet, Mehar oil and liquefied natural gas flows depend on it. When Hormuz is compelled by things sabotage. When Hormuz is threatened, every government, shipping company, energy trader, airline, and central bank starts paying attention because it Energy is not just fuel, energy is inflation, energy is food prices, energy is transport, energy is political pressure, IFNO. If Iran disrupts Hormuz, the consequences do not stop in the Gulf. Asia feels it, Europe feels it, America feels it, poorer import. Dependent countries feel it hardest, oil prices can move, insurance costs can surge, tankers can route, naval forces can molly. The markets can panic, our thought looks regional and a map can become global in a grocery store, a gas station, and a government budget. This we runs one in the same not only a Arab rulers but also to world economy, Tehran wants foreign capital stosk, ISAST. Regional and the risk, I see toward oil shocks, I see toward shipping chaos, I see toward dragging Gulf partners into the, I see too. Out making the most important energy corridor on earth part of a battlefield that is a symmetric deterrence, Iran may not need to. Aina conventional W to make war unattractive. It online desti or raise the price. ITC THR10 basis. ITC threaten shipping. IT can threaten energy confidence, it can threaten political stability, it can use words, missiles, drones, cyber pressure, allied groups, and geography together. It can make Ivanians not whether Iran is stronger than America, but whether the cost of striking Iran is too high, but there is another side it is. Iran's warning call backfire. If Gulf rulers feel intimidated, they may not be stance themselves from Washington, they may move closer, they may ask for more air defenses, more American deployments, more Legends sharing, more regional coordination, and more visible deterrence. Israel may present itself as a technological security type partner. The United States may argue that only stronger military integration can protect Gulf. And suddenly Iran's attempt Tao Conti coalition could strengthen it. This is the tragedy of deterrence, a warning meant to prevent war and prepare the ground. Forward. A threat meant to create fear can create a counter mobilization, a message meant to divide enemies can unify them, every side. The claim sheet is trying to avoid disaster, but every side takes steps to theater sida reads as preparation for disaster, that is. If the current moment feels unstable, Iran believes it is surrounded, Israel believes time is running out, Washington believes readability is untalin, Gulf monarchies believe they are exposed, none of these fears are small, none of them can Bernard, and do. Hen majoritas are feel insecure at the same time, the probability of miscalculation rises, the most dangerous part is thought no bad. Yasto and total for a total crisis to begin, a limited strike can trigger a limited response, the limited response can kill so. Mion important, the next total attention can it a base. The base attack can force Washington to respond. Iran can't strike a Gulf fail. In Qatar threaten Hormuz, Gulf states can activate defenses, Israel can expand operations, proxies can move, markets can panic, leaders can run out from to retreat, this issue was grow, not always because any leader workshop and causes catastrophe. S. Ometimes was grow because every leader believes backing down would be more dangerous than moving forward. So it would Iran act too. A leader if its warning were ignored, that as the question if United asking Iran has many options, it could as missiles against my military facilities, it could as drones for symbolic strikes, it could roll on allied groups for pressure, it called launchable Russians against ports, energy companies, airports, or government systems, it called harass shipping, it called return Minesaf. Bot attacks, it could cause a calibrated response that signals danger without crossing into follower, or it called misjudged. Hellenian trigger something much larger. The Gulf states not as range of options, that is with a fear not only destruction bu. Uncertainty, air defense systems can stop semi threats, not all threats, cyber systems can be deemed not made invulnerable. S. Hips can be protected, not guaranteed safe, markets can be reshared, but not commanded. On uncertainty enters the Gulf, it's pre. Adds fast at unofficial statements can contain it, the size of our wealthy status can be strategically fragile, wealth builds to. Whereas airports, ports, and prestige. Beauty to also create value targets, it creates systems that depend on constant motion. F. Lights must continue, ships must dock, investors must trust, workers must stay, tourists must arrive, energy must flow, confident. Some must remain unbroken. Iran's warning is powerful because it does not need to promise a conquest, it only needs to threaten disrupt. Iron. There is also domstocodians inside Iran, Iranian leaders cannot appear passive if they are attacked, hardliners will demand a response, military institutions will demand credibility, public messaging will require strength. If Tehran threatens go. If Monarchies and first act after a major strike enable big Gulf infrastructure, its deterrent image could suffer, that may. And so warning creates pressure and this in the as well as the receiver. This is true for Washington and Israel, if this word line. Santen retreat, they may look at their own audiences and adversaries, if they act aggressively, they may trigger a scholar. Tian Gulf rulers face the same dilemma. If they refuse America, they may weaken the security ties. If they help America, they may invite Iranian pressure. Every actor is trapped between fear of weakness and fear of war. That is why diplomacy matters right now. N. Not because diplomacy is soft, but because it is the only mechanism that can slow the machine. Back channels through Qatar, Oman, Pak. Eastern or other mediators can clarify what it really means. Public warnings are often loud, private messages can be precise. A public threat message we will retaliate, a private message may here is what we will not tolerate, and here is what we may avoid. If I avoid certain steps, the problem is how diplomacy becomes shadow when language becomes personal, truths against Rolasa. And policies are not easy to forget, that to watch pride, that to act legitimacy, that touch the survival instincts of regimes, once a month. Aka feels personally agitated, it may decide that accommodation looks like Sharonda. One siren feels signaled, it may decide. At my dramatic language direction is necessary, pride can become a strategic weapon, but it can also become a strategic trap, too. All should not treat this crisis as entertainment. It may sound dramatic, it may produce viral headlines, it may create fire SP. Chosen emotional clips, but beneath the real systems that millions of people depend on, energy flows, shipping lanes, financial stability, airline routes, food prices, and regional security. If a Gulf crisis explodes, the consequences will not trim. Ein inside the television segment, and yet, dramas part of test duty, I rank nost hats hawking language travels, it nost etwa. Running Arab Monarchies create lines, it nost hat the idea of policies and threat is emotionally powerful. It forces Gulf through. Last to respond even if they excellent. It forces Washington to think about host country vulnerability, it forces market stop. Rise risk, it forces Vriona to imagine wider war. Sometimes the most effective deterrent is not open itself, but high image. Of what the weapon called, Iran is painting an image if I turned Gulf into a platform for the Gulf will not remain a sanctuary. Why? Whether that image is bluff, a doctrine, or a final warning is what makes this moment so dangerous, so I should watch next. W. Watch whether Iran repeats the warning of high-level officials. Let's sit fed. Watch whether Gulf status publicly stress. Neutrality. Watch whether U.S. forces reinforce air defense across her region. Watch whether Israel increases language about him. In entries, watch whether oil markets react sharply to a new statement. Watch Strait of Hormuz, watch shipping advisory. Yes, watch diplomatic travel, watch whether the language shifts from warning to preparation, because countries begin prepare. In public, they often become prisoners of their own preparations. A missile bot are removed for deterrence can be seen as a sign of attack. A naval deployment meant a reassuring can be escalation. A basic meant to protect troops can make the host country. You look involved in a region stance, even defensive moves can look offensive. There is still a away from war. Gulf states can make clear that their territory will not be used for offensive operations. Iran can stop threatening guerrillas and civilian centers. Washington can pursue escalation while protecting forces. Israel can avoid steps that force a regional escalation. Mediators can Kiev and energy powers can perform stability. Whatever UNAFT host courses requires discipline and decide. Plainisha is to fear I loud. The final truth is this: the Gulf monarchies are not just watching a conflict between Iran and Israel and America. They are inside the strategic geometry of thought conflict. Their base matter, their airspace matters, their ports their neutrality matters, their few matters, their decisions may determine what herein or remains limit the spreads. Cross the region. Iran's dark warning is for not just not a statement. It is a test of thin to Gulf further, a test of whether or American bases still guarantees if no invite danger. A test of whether Arab monarchies can balance between Washington and Tehran. A test of whether Israel's confrontation with Iran can remain contained. A test of whether energy markets can survive or not. Her shock, and above all, a test of whether leaders can hear a warning before it becomes an explosion. Tonight, the polaris of the goal. Far not only looking Tehran. They are looking at Washington. They are looking at Tel Aviv. They are looking at oil prices, military bases, shipping routes, and Tehran survival calculations. They note that on a decision made outside their borders could pull them into the center of the fire. They note that wealth does not erase geography. They note Italian says do not guarantee immunity. The note that in Middle East, the line between host and target can disappear faster than an onion stored meat. If the warning immense warning, the region may still step back. If it becomes action, the next chapter will not be between headline, it will be above. At the moment, Gulf discovered that the shield trusted could also become magnet for the storm. And that is Iran's message. It other of monarchies should not be dismissed as noise. It is a signal, it is a threat, it is a calculation, it is a warning to rule. Was it between American power and Iranian retaliation. And that is a reminder that entire world that Middle East's richest war. Tasaril so it's most dangerous because under the shiny full wealth, skyscrapers and royal diplomacy, the old truth remains e.g. Geography is not for evolutions and order is not always top where a leadership it will.